everyone, and welcome back to Book Talk with Kara. Today, it is so much fun to be back with my friend Bethany Turner. I know many of you read her books, but it's also very fun because she was like my very first guest back during the pandemic when I was like, I'm missing my writing friends. Anyone want to come on Facebook with me? And Bethany, being the fun-loving, adventurous person she is like, sure. So it's so much fun though, because it's been like 4 years. It's crazy to think about that. And you've had so many great books come out. But before we dive into all that, because I love talking with you, let's let people know a little bit about you first.
Sure. So I'm Bethany Turner. I write romantic comedy, usually with a lot of pop culture references. I say usually. What was that? Always with a lot of pop culture references. I like to really, kind of dive into some serious issues and laugh through them, because I think
Yeah.
that's the best way to tackle life. So I feel like that's kind of what I love to do. And on a personal level, I'm here in Southwest Colorado with my husband and almost out of the nest son. And so, life is good and hot and dry this way, but I'm so
Yeah.
glad to be back with you. Yeah, it's crazy that it's been 4 years. Crazy.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm actually sitting in Omaha right now. And I always, when I come to Nebraska, I think of like Western Nebraska where it's really dry. But I got to tell you, Omaha is really humid right now. It has been
Really?
nuts. So it must be
Oh,
something about all the rivers or something. But I wish I
yeah.
was in dry Colorado with you.
I tell you, I grew up in Kentucky, and so I've experienced the humid life. I do not miss it. Not,
Yes.
not in the least.
Exactly. Well, and it's just one of those things that you can't really control and you learn to deal with. I was like, oh, I feel like I'm drinking through a blanket
Uh-huh.
or breathing through a blanket. Yeah, it's been
Yep,
crazy. It's like
it is.
76 to 90% humidity, but it won't rain. So I'm just like,
Oh, it's just
at least
torture.
in the
I think it's
South, it'll
torture.
rain every day and kind of clear the humidity.
Uh-huh.
But
But just
we're not
won't
here to talk
break.
about that. We're here to talk about your characters and my good friends, Wes and Addie, because I have really enjoyed Addie from the first book in this series. And
Mm,
it was so fun and sad to get to know her as a real person because there's so much backstory to her. I mean, she's so much
yes.
more multidimensional than came across in the first two books because she was always a real person, but you didn't know all the backstory that comes out when they're the
Hmm.
main character of the book. But before we get into all of the wonderfulness of Wes and Addie, this was your first book that you wrote like 10 years
Uh-huh.
ago, and it's just now coming out.
Uh-huh.
How did
Uh-huh.
that happen?
Well, okay. So, when I first started writing, it was total just like stress relief. I mean, I had no aspirations whatsoever. And it was just a creative outlet. And so I actually I started a few stories all at once, which now my brain can't handle that anymore. But I used to be like a multitasking writer. And so there were kind of a couple different things going, but this was the first. And it was just the story of this politician who has to go back to his hometown when a scandal breaks and reunite with the fiance he jilted 20 years ago. Like that was the basic story. And it was and then I kind of, I moved on to other things and was writing other things all at the same time. And then when it came time to start pursuing publication, um, the first book, my first traditionally published book, The Secret Life of Sarah Hollenbeck, felt like the one I was supposed to push forward. But then after that one came out and I started, then it was like, okay, what's next? What's the next pitch? I started pitching Wes and Addie's story. And it was always, no, we're not going to touch politics with a 10-foot pole, was
Mm.
basically what it was. And every time I would say, it has nothing to do with politics. He's a
Yeah.
politician. It has
Yeah, that's
nothing to
his
do with
job.
politics. Yeah, exactly. And so then people would say to me, well, meaning smart people would say, well, then if it's just his job, let's change his job. I'm like, there's not another job that's as high stakes that I can, I need it to be that job. That's the fun of the story to me. And yet, so anyway, so for, 8 years, I pitched it every time a pitch time came around. And it was always, let's not do politics. And so finally, about, well, I guess it was in 2021, 22, it was time to pitch. it was a no on Wes and Addie, and it was kind of like, okay, I'm finally giving up on this.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to give up on the small town. I didn't want to give up on Adelaide Springs, which wasn't called that then, but still, it was Adelaide Springs with these same supporting characters and all of this small town, Colorado mountain town stuff. And so I decided to just instead, it's going to be Bryn Cornell, who's a top TV personality who has to go back to her small town when scandal breaks. And I use the town for her. And yet, I will say there was just something in my mind of don't close the door. Just don't close the door. Keep the door open.
Yeah.
So as I wrote Bryn and Sebastian hate each other, I threw in little nuggets for Cole and Layla and little nuggets for Wes and Addie, hoping, maybe there'd be enough interest that I'd get to write their stories too. And thank
And you
goodness it
did.
happened. I did. Yeah.
Well, and what I love is they're all very different, and yet they're all very connected. And so, I mean,
Mhm.
they're like the best version of the standalone series because
Mm.
you can read them all very separately and disjointedly. But when you've read them all, when you get to Wes and Addie's story, there's such a sweetness that comes together
Mm.
in the way that the friends interact. I mean, it really is like watching a Friends episode in some ways. And yet, I know that was Cole and Layla's like ode to pop culture.
Yeah.
Um, but there's something about these six people and how they interact and come together across the books.
Yeah.
But Wes and Addie just have this backstory. They have this history. Um, even though Addie went on to have this great life, she still can't let it go of he jilted me 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And how many of us have that moment in our lives that no matter how everything else is going, we're still like, I can't let go of this one thing.
Can't let it go. And how many times she's tells us as readers and tells everyone in her life, I'm over it. I'm totally over it.
Yes. And you're looking at
And
it going, no, sweetheart, you're not.
no, honey, this is not the definition of over it. And yet,
Yes.
yeah, I think you're right. I think that's such a realistic thing of like, okay, it might not keep us up at night, but we're not over it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was really fun to write her from that perspective. And then, writing Wes from the perspective of, he's not pretending to be over it. It's kind of like
Yeah.
he's come back around to, it's like he may have buried it for a long time, and yet now it's like, oh, he doesn't want to be over it. She's fighting tooth and nail to prove she's over it, and so that was a really fun dynamic to create. Yeah.
And the things that have gone on in their past, the ways they've tried to push past it and yet didn't. And hers was good. And his was a political solution. And that's all
Uh-huh.
I'm going to say about it. Um, but you wrote this book that's set in politics, but isn't political at all. It's like that's just kind of the context. It doesn't even hit West Wing level
No,
politicalism. And
no.
so it's not, I mean, because we were talking about that before we started recording, how, oh, what a year to have a politics book come out, but it's not a politics book. That literally is the context that they're working in.
Yeah.
Um,
And it was actually really funny. So I wrote the first draft, the new first draft. Now that it's like, okay, I got to factor in everything from these other two books and rewrite Wes and Addie's story, and then gave that draft to my editor. And she actually said to me, and it was so good. She was like, okay, first of all, sorry, I didn't believe you. You're right. It's not about politics. But second of all, can you give us one conversation where we believe Wes is in politics? And like she actually asked me to put a little politics in, and which was so funny and just gratifying. And so then, I wrote this scene of him doing an interview, and he talks about like it's basically just how politicians should, they're there for the people. I mean, it's the most unpolitical. It's like if
yeah,
all
it's
of our
pretty benign.
politicians, yeah, it's like hopefully every politician feels that way. Hopefully every person feels that way. And so, but yeah, it was really fun to have to be like, after all that, after a decade of no politics, it's like, can we have a little politics?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I mean, as someone who worked in DC for 8 years and was very much around all that, there was a moment where I had to be like, okay, I'm suspending belief, but that was okay because that's not what it was about. It was about
Right.
it was about Wes and Addie and how are they
Right.
going to resolve their past. And they
Right.
had multiple choices. They didn't have to get back together. So it could go lots of different ways.
Yeah.
So when you think about this, though, why was this a story that for 10 years you kept coming back to and you're like, I have to write this story? Because some people would
Mm.
have at a certain point been like, okay, I'm giving up. So what was
Yeah.
it that just wouldn't let you walk away from it?
I think it was a couple different factors. Well, it was three factors really, and this sounds so obvious, but it's like it was Wes, it was Addie, and it was Wes and Addie. And what I mean by that is Addie's story of what she's gone through. And I mean that's a really like if we just laid out her story without, knowing that it's a comedy, it sure doesn't seem like a comedy what she's gone
No, not at
through.
all.
Really,
Yeah.
really rough stuff. And she mattered to me for a long time. Like she was just one of those characters latched on from the beginning. Wes, um I think I loved the idea of trying to create a politician that we could all get behind as a person. Again, nothing to do with
Yeah.
politics, but so I think I loved that. But then what I mean by Wes and Addie, I could not drop the idea of there are no higher stakes in this. And it's not just simply, I mean, there couldn't be higher stakes. And it's not just simply, oh, am I going to be with the woman I love? Or am I going to be the leader of the free world? It's not that simple. And yet, that is the choice he's kind of making.
Yeah.
And and for other reasons. And I think the fact that when it came right down to it, it wasn't a choice between those two things. It was really a choice of who did he want to be? Who did, not even who was he or who did he used to be, but who did he want to be? And being able to get there, having these two people who, I don't know, after 20 years apart, they're still connected, even though they are completely different people. They acknowledge that and yet they weren't just, they didn't date for a year. It wasn't like that. It's like they grew up together. They had spent the first half of their lives together. And so to have that connection to where it's like finally, for him, it's like, okay, everything makes sense again. I can think again. I can figure this out again, in a way I haven't been able to for 20 years. And just that dynamic, but with the high stakes world of everyone's watching,
Yeah.
everyone, literal history books will be rewritten based on the decision you make, Wes. So make it good. That's so fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's where there's a little bit of, okay, I'm going to suspend belief, but it worked. It
Yeah.
totally worked. Um, and it's one of those that I think there was such a, like you described, this element of they both are having to choose who they're going to be. And it's ironic because just earlier this week, I was on a Zoom call with a bunch of my young women who just graduated in May. And once a month we get together and there's still coaching and stuff happening. But one of the things I talked about with them is there are these pivot points in life where you get to redefine who you are. And you
Mm,
can get rid of the labels that other people have put on you or that you've put on you. And so for them, like graduating from college and starting their career is one of those like really clear, everybody gets to redefine themselves at that point. Same
yeah.
thing happens when you're graduating from high school and you move out. You get to redefine and say, okay, that might have been who I was. This is who I want to be going forward. But now you've got this, like you said, it's happening on this like gigantic scale. But it's something that we all get to choose and wrestle with, no matter if we're trying to lead the free world or we're, taking care of our kids and doing our jobs and in a very more,
Right.
sedate kind of place. But we all get that
Right.
choice. And so we just
You know,
get to watch it with them.
yeah, absolutely. And I think, what you hit on there, I think was another part of just what I loved so much about them for the last decade plus is, yeah, okay, these circumstances are crazy and this is not ever going to happen to anyone in this way. And yet I think they're kind of the most relatable characters I've ever written. I mean, to
Yeah,
me personally, I feel they're so relatable. They're so, because of exactly what you said okay, yeah, for us, maybe it's, I'm not happy in my job. I want to switch my job, I'm not happy in this relationship, it's like I've wasted 10 years of my life and I'm ready to chase this dream. Like you said, whatever it may be, I think we can all identify with that moment of, okay, this is it. It's time to stop playing
yeah,
in whatever way. And the decision I make now is going to have big impact. Let's go. And yeah, it's so real. So real.
yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
So as you think about, I mean, you've had Bren and Sebastian, you've had Cole and Layla, now you've had Wes and Addie. What's next for Bethany Turner and her characters?
Well, I'm really sad to be saying goodbye to Adelaide Springs, but I do think it's goodbye for them for now. I sort of feel like
There should be
I
a
think
Christmas Friends episode.
exactly. I mean, honest to goodness, it's like that's what I keep coming back to. I'm like, okay, there might be a Christmas novella along the way because I can't imagine that I'm done with them.
Yeah, they were
I
too
just
fun.
can't. I can't. Yeah. So I don't feel like they're gone forever, but like we were talking before, it's like it hit me hard this past week because again, I've spent 5 years now actively working on these three stories, but yeah, it's been more than 10 years with these people. And so, yeah. Um, so next will not be Adelaide Springs. Not totally sure what it'll be, but having to kind of move
You and I
out
just need to
of
get
the
together and
town.
brainstorm because I've got like sort of an idea, but I got to get it fleshed out so publishers can say yes or no. And I hate that part of the process. I
The
hate
struggle
it.
is real. I'm with you, girl. I'm with you. It's
I'm just like,
so hard.
after 45 books, can't I just say I've got a good idea and someone will trust me?
Thank you. Thank you. Exactly. I'm like, just give me time, give me space, and I promise I'll deliver.
Yeah,
Why is
exactly.
that
I
so
always
hard?
do. It's always
Exactly.
good. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's
Yeah. I don't have quite the track record you do yet. I'm only like, 8 books in. So no one's going to trust me, but
oh, but yours a hit list, so you're doing well. You're doing
oh,
just
well,
fine.
thanks. Thanks.
So when did you first know you were a writer, Bethany? How did you first come to that revelation?
Um, it was honestly when I started writing. I won like writing contests in elementary school. Like, I was always like the top writer in my class kind of thing. And I know that I liked English class more than I liked math and science. That was always me. But it never clicked. And I love to read. But no, being a writer never occurred to me at all. And yet, ideas were always there.
Hmm.
Stories were always there. And I think that, and I was a theater major for a while in college. And, I feel like I think it came down to storyteller, yes,
Hmm.
writer, no. And so then I was in the midst of a really stressful period of a really stressful job in banking, again, for a girl who doesn't like math. And, and I started writing just as stress relief because my stress relief had always been community theater. And I didn't
Yeah,
have time for that because of the season of life. And so, yeah, I started writing. And it was then like as that just went on and went on, and I couldn't wait to have that a little alone time at night after everybody went to bed and, to just have those moments. And so, so I sort of feel like that's when I knew. But on the other hand, I'm like, I don't know that I really knew until I'd had a couple books come out.
yeah,
I think that that's when it kind of, because I think even in the beginning, it was, oh, I've got these few good ideas and that I felt strongly about and that I felt were good. And oh, great, I'm going to tell these stories. And then moving on, I think is probably what I would have predicted was going to happen. I don't think I expected there to always be more ideas.
Mhm.
Again, we have to brainstorm and work hard for them sometimes, but we don't run out of ideas usually. It's just, as writers, it's like there's always something we want to tell.
Oh,
And
and it's just
so
figuring out, does anybody want it?
bingo, exactly. And I think then in that moment of like, okay, well, I need to tell this story whether they want it or not. Sometimes when that, which was certainly the Wes and Addie
Yeah.
situation. And so I think it was several books in before it was like, hang on, how'd this happen?
Yeah.
Oh, what?
I'm a writer.
I'm a
I'm in
writer? Like,
libraries.
that's
I'm
what
at the
I do?
bookstore.
People have read my stuff. That's crazy. So yeah, it
So,
took
do
a
you still
while.
get that moment when you walk into a bookstore or a library and you're just like, God, I don't know how this happened, but you're so cool.
Uh-huh. Every time.
I
Every
still take
time.
photos. I'm like,
I do too. I mean, yeah, I just can't imagine that ever getting old. Ever.
yeah. And if
It's
it does, that's
just
probably a good signal. It's time for me to stop. If I stop
exactly.
getting excited about the first box of books for each new book, or like my kids called me over at our local Barnes and Noble because they'd moved them from the Christian section to the mystery thriller section. And
Mm,
my kids knew that was a big deal. And I'm like, no, if just Barnes and Noble in general would do that, that would be amazing, But I was like, so then I had to do the whole hamming it up thing because the kids were so excited for me. And I was like, yep, this is what it's about.
yeah, you still feel that adrenaline rush. You
Yep.
still, every time or every time you get an email or whatever from a reader that it connected with and honestly, when you see these beautiful bookstagram photos and it's like, that's my book.
Someone took the time to do that with my story.
exactly. And
Yeah.
it's just, and I know how I feel about my favorite authors and getting to meet authors. And it's like I fangirl like
Yeah.
crazy. And, so but it's those moments when someone comes up to you and they've loved your work. And it's those moments too of like, yeah, like you said, I don't know how I got here. This is so cool, but I
Yeah.
can't even wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
And yeah, can't imagine it ever getting old, ever.
So, last question for you. If
Mhm.
you had the opportunity to have Wes and Addie's story made into a movie,
Mm.
who should star as Wes and Addie?
Well,
I
Wes is
know you
right.
have people in your
Of
mind
course
because
I
you are the
do.
pop culture queen.
I had them in my mind before I, had a single word on the page, probably. Well, maybe not since we're going back a while, but I've known for a long time Wes is Ryan Gosling. I'm,
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just like, and especially like Crazy Stupid Love in the tailored suit, Ryan Gosling, like done. He is Wes Hobbs. And then Addie's a little tougher for me. Like I do kind of go around, like she's never been as clear. Um, but I think push comes to shove. I see Aubrey Plaza. I don't know if you know Aubrey Plaza from like Parks and
Yeah.
Recreation and different things. Because she's got that, I don't know, she's snarky and moody and yet can play sweet so well at the same time. And tough, like don't mess with her, and
Yeah.
yet can be really vulnerable. And I feel like that's that's Addie. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd take a Ryan Gosling, Aubrey Plaza movie any day. Let's do that,
That would
please.
be so fun. That would be so fun. And I think that, I mean, the whole series would make fun movies, but I think this one in particular would be a good movie.
Thank you. From
So,
your lips to God's ears, right?
yes, I know, really. It's like that's still one of the things on my list. I've got my dream list. I'm like, okay, sometime a movie would be fun. It would be fun.
Wouldn't it? Can't wait. Can't wait to be
Yeah.
on that red carpet. So
Yeah,
even if
I
it's
know.
even
With
if
the
it's just
fancy
my friends,
dress.
yeah, even if it's just in my local hometown and everybody, they do a red carpet out of paper, I'll be happy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Bethany, where can people learn more about you and your books?
Yeah, so I'm C. Bethany Wright across the board. So SEE, Bethany, WRITE. So that's on socials and cbethany.wright.com and all the things. And then also, I love when readers text me. I have a text number. Please text me. And it's 970-387-7811. So yeah, I love to connect and hope people will reach out.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Me too.
Congratulations on the release of
Thank
Wes and
you.
Addie.
Thank
It's
you.
such a good book. I loved it. And
Thank
I'll have a
you.
copy to give away because I ended up buying it too.
Oh, wow.
So I think you sent me one,
Awesome.
and then I
Yeah,
ended up
awesome.
buying one too because I always pre-order. So I'm like, ooh, that means giveaway.
Yay, that's the most fun. Well, thank you for all the support and for having me back. It's fun as always to chat with you.